Okay, let's come back and learn now how you can actually deliver your Kahoot to your class. So there's two ways. The classic player versus player. This is when everyone in your class has a device, a cell phone, a tablet, even a laptop or, for example, a Google Chromebook. Team mode would be a great way to play anytime that you want to, students to work together, which even when everyone has devices, you might want them to work in a team. But if you have limited devices, this is a perfect time, a limited number of devices. This is a perfect time to play the team mode. Now, before we click on actually the classic mode, I want to show you here that you have some game options. So, the preset options are typically what most people want. You do want to enable the answer streak bonus, so when students are getting multiple questions in a row correct, they are issued a bonus. So the system keeps up with points and creates a leaderboard. I don't use the name generator. You could use that. I don't use that. I have my students put their last name, comma, first name, simply for the sake that in some of my classes I have over 120 students in a class. I do love the podium. Students love the podium feature, and so you'll get a chance to see that when we play. Sometimes I randomize the order of questions and answers, but the way I use Kahoot is in lieu of lecturing. So I like to go in the order that I created them, which is in the order of the textbook. So I can, in my initial delivery of the content, maintain alignment and not confuse students. But when we come back to review for exams, I actually come in here and click this on, and I usually have randomized order of answers on as well, because students can play the Kahoots before class and after class, and I don't want them to be able to remember. If you do the enable two-step join, that just means literally that students have 2 steps. I usually display the pin throughout, so if anyone comes in late, it's posted up. And then show minimized intro instructions. That doesn't seem to be a big deal, so you can play with that. Now, another cool thing I do during review is I automatically have it move through the questions, which means I can walk away from my computer, and once students do the answer, it's going to go right on to the next question. So in the review, it's like, whoops, my hands are off. The system's controlling, and students are, jumping around trying to stay focused. It really makes for a great environment. And then if you play, sometimes I usually break my Kahoots up into questions, sets of 20. And so in a lecture, we may have 4 of these that we may play within an hour and 25 minutes. So I don't have this on, but that's a personal preference. So after you've set your game options, now you're ready to click whichever type of game you want to play. In this case, a classic version, where students are competing against one another. Now over here on this, oh, the spooky mess, spooky. Okay, so they play this music for you, and it's Halloween, so they're playing their Halloween scary version. So you come over here to the phone that mimics, what the experience is for students, and you type in this pin in here, and then once you hit enter, you now are asked for your nickname. Well, I typically have students put last name, comma, first name, but for me, I'm just going to put NB, and then I'm going to click OK, go. Tells me the feedback on the phone for students is outstanding, but then also the names show up here. Now, if someone puts their name in incorrectly, I come here and kick them out, and then they've got to come back in. So if they didn't do what I asked, I kick them out and make them put their last name, first name. Once everybody is here, I usually know how many students are in class, and I'm like, hey, there's 3 of you we're waiting on. Sometimes students can have Wi-Fi issues, so try not to be too hard on them, because they could be trying to get in and their phone just be spinning. So now we're ready to start, and here are the 2 questions that we created. Example question 1. So the question's going to appear, right? There's a short video, but the colors to the answers match up on our phone. So if I think the answer is A, which is the blue, then I come to my device and I hit A. And if I get it correct, me as a student, I get immediate feedback. It tells me how many points I've earned. I earn points up to 1,000 points per question. So the faster you earn, and obviously you must get it correct, the more points. So if I answer it really quickly, some students even earn 1,000 points. I mean, they play these in advance because they know exactly what we're going to do, and some of them know what's coming just because they've come to class more prepared, and I'm fine with that. You know, they're preparing for class, they're spending time with my content. I don't have a problem with them kind of already knowing what we're doing. It makes them feel empowered and more in control. So now what's neat is when I hit this next button, well, first let me back up. This is how I deliver in my class. If someone had marked A, then I say, someone pop up. And so I have a student, because whoever's doing the work's doing the learning. That's what Harry K. Wong would tell you. So my students stand up and say, well, A cannot be right, or the red cannot be right because the book says this, that, and the other. So I do let them quote the book directly, or I let them explain it using their own language. But when students have to turn and teach it to the class or a peer, it just helps them to learn it even more deeply. Now, when this occurs, what you see is everyone got the answer correct, and there are no incorrect answers. We do what's called a round of applause. Even with my university students, sometimes undergraduate seniors, and at first they think it's corny, but I'll tell you, it catches on pretty quick, and they get proud of themselves. And I'm not paying attention, and we've gotten everybody's gotten them all correct, and I know it simply because my class erupted into a round of applause. So even though students don't seem to like things at first, stick with it. It does help to it'll fold in eventually into the climate and become something that students really enjoy. Now, what's also neat is when I hit that next button, it shows me the scoreboard or the leaderboard. Now, normally, you know, that it will show you up to the top 10. And students really love seeing their names on this board, and they love when they don't see their name. As you notice on my phone, it shows me that I'm in first place. But if there were 120 of us playing, whoever is 120th is going to say, it's going to say to them, you're in 120th place. So that can just kind of speak to that student privately and make them think, I really should prepare more, because it really sucks being the 120th player out of 120 students. So when I'm ready, I usually take this time to verbally recognize students and congratulate those, you know, who are on fire, because you can see this little fireball here. There'll be a fire streak by my name if I was on fire, meaning that I've gotten so many questions answered in a row correctly. So now once I click next, now we go to the next question. And so now I've done the true and false. All right, I get that incorrect, okay? So now here's the feedback that I get. So not only are we getting class data over here on this screen, right, on the projector for all to see, and it's also leading our discussion. You know, the last one everybody got it right, so we had nothing to discuss. We quickly moved on, and that's the beauty. So we don't spend time on things students know, but when we come to a question like this that maybe some of the students don't know, we do stop and take time, and here's where I would have someone explain. Someone tell me why the answer is not true. And so instead of me just always being the retainer of all the knowledge that I am distributing to these blessed children, now it becomes empowering students. And it's like, someone tell me, why is that correct answer not true? Why would it not be true? And so now we're further empowering. But your best is yet to come. You know, it's kind of corny, but it does give, you know, some encouragement. So when I'm trying to teach my future teachers, you know, this feedback, individualized feedback, and then class data feedback is outstanding. So here's what's cool. When I hit next, there's the podium that students always strive to be on. And so, you know, they love seeing their names up here. It lets them know a lot of data, like how many points they earned, because my students get 1 bonus point for every 100,000 points they earn. So it seems like a lot of points to earn before you can get a bonus point, but not really. You know, students will usually earn 2 to 3 bonus points, you know, in a class period. So usually between 1 and 3 somewhere. So if you think about the number of classes we meet, many of them actually do earn all 10, but surprisingly not all of them do. But then here it tells me how many questions I got correct. So if there were 20 questions and I got 19 out of 20, you know, that's additional feedback. You know, I kind of know this content. So that is how you deliver and play an actual game with your class. And now one other thing is I click on Get Results. And when I click on Get Results, now my students on their phones get to rate how they like this. Did you learn something today? It's kind of, would you recommend this? And continue to tell us how you feel so they can, select my little cameras here is in the way, so they can select whichever one that they think. And that feedback comes to me as well. But now I can save the results. I can click here and I can see what students said about it, what the rating for that game was. But when I click Save Results, I can save it to my drive, which is what I typically do, or I can just do a direct download of the data, which brings it right here in the corner, gives me a nice, neat little spreadsheet. And then as long as you don't have more than 20 questions in a game, you'll get this really cool breakdown of the data. And it's organized, it's visually easy to see, tells you your date, how many players, gives you all of this great data, the total percent of the total correct answer, the percent of the total incorrect, the average amount of points that were earned, what the rate feedback was from students, and at the bottom I can click here and go see final scores, which is really beneficial. And then I can look at it from a question by question and see how students perform. And if I wanted to, I could dig down to each question, and then on the always to the far right, they give you the raw data in case there's something you want to do with that. Okay, that is how you deliver a Kahoot and the kind of feedback you get at the end.